Dave Quinn, thanks for coming on the Mindful podcast.
Thanks for having me, Dermot.
You're a very important person to me, Dave, because we're not affiliated in any business way. We don't have any kind of relationship that way.
No.
Other than you were the guy that I was dreading talking to most about my life plans, about my thinking about making a change in my own career, moving off the radio and moving into this mindful space. Because I thought the one person who's going to talk me out of this is a finance guy. But I knew that I had to get someone to have a look at, you know, my books.
Yeah.
This is a very short book. And give me a dose of reality. But it didn't go that way, did it?
No, it really didn't. And that's the way we tend to work, because finance is just, you know, there's two sides to that coin, to excuse the pun.
Mm.
You have the numbers side of it, which, you know, is what you were fearing. You're going to look at the numbers and you're going to say, oh, you can do X, Y, and Z, and you can't do X, Y, and Z. But the much more important side of finance is the emotional side and the life planning side and the softer side. And that's the bit you weren't expecting, I think.
Well, I asked you, look, how many people come back into you a few months later after they've made this big change, a career change, relationship change, whatever it happens to be, and they go, I have made a terrible mistake. Why did you ever tell me to do that? You know, please get me a job, any type of job. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
But you didn't say there were loads of people coming in. What did you say?
I said there's none. I don't have anyone that comes back to me after making that brave decision to back themselves and do something. Generally, if you've been brave enough to even think about it, it's something you're excited about and interested in. And once you go down that route, even if it means a big pay cut and some financial difficulty, you're loving life so much more, or you're engaged and challenged so much more. It's hard to go back from that. You become unemployable very quickly. I found that when I left, you know, a bank to go and set up my own business, I was unemployable very quickly because I realized the satisfaction you get out of creating something yourself and, you know,
that's interesting.
Building something.
So some people just literally unemployable, meaning I just cannot go back to working for somebody else, or
I think that's
having someone else dictate my time and all those things.
So I'm not saying that everyone that comes in and makes or wants to make that decision to go out on their own is successful. It doesn't always work out immediately within 3 months that they're making loads of money and everything's rosy, but they persevere and they carry on doing something on their own that they love. They don't go back to working for the man or whatever it is. You know, they tend not to go back to being employed.
You said nobody comes back to you saying, I've made a terrible mistake, please help me. But you said that you do get other types of people coming into you.
Yeah. So like, I think I set up the business back in 2005, and very early on, one of the most influential conversations I had was with an older gentleman who came in looking for help with what he would do with all this money after selling a business for a significant amount. So he was independently wealthy, very happy guy, very successful. And we became friends very quickly, and we helped him with that problem, which was an easy one to solve, really.
Nice problem to have.
Yeah, really, really nice problem to have. And he was very good with money and very sensible kind of a fella, and it was easy to direct him in the right way. But so we became friendly, and he started asking about my family, and I had very young kids, and he said to me he would give up half the money to go back to my age back then, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and spend more time with the kids, work less hard. Okay, you'd end up with less money, but the money was no use to him at that stage.
Because he'd missed the time.
No amount of money can buy back that time that he wanted. And he yearned deeply for that time when he was 40 to take a Friday off and collect the kids from school and play with them. Simple things. You know, it's not a money decision, that one. It's just and I think COVID as well, I've had a lot of similar conversations with people who stepped away during COVID, where when you're in the middle of the rat race, as they say, and you're doing your 60 hours a week and you're making loads of money and successful and you're growing a business and everyone wants to talk about an exit from their business now and all that kind of conversation, you think it's making you really happy and you think it's fulfilling you because you're in, you know, the endorphins and the adrenaline is running riot and you're busy And when you take a step back from it, you realize, actually, do you know what? A walk on Holt Head with the kids gave me way more satisfaction than that deal I got last Friday.
Yeah.
And it was COVID triggered that. A lot of those conversations with our clients saying, God, you know what? Actually, I thought I was happy, but really I'm challenged and I'm engaged in society and I'm successful, but I'm not getting happiness from any of that.
Well, I guess they're reevaluating their definition of success.
Yes.
I mean, on paper, the gentleman you spoke about who was sitting on a pot of money,
Yeah.
Sold a successful business, obviously worked hard all his life,
Yeah.
probably put his kids through college.
Yeah.
That's considered successful.
Yeah.
But he wasn't feeling successful because he felt like
Yeah.
there were other areas that he didn't succeed in to the way he would have liked.
Yeah, I think he was feeling successful, but he had regrets. Those regrets can be avoided. Whether that's the regret of not backing yourself and going and setting up your own business or doing something you really love instead of doing something that makes you money.
Because it goes the other way. Maybe you were an entrepreneur and actually you realized, all I want to do is work for the man. I want to get a paycheck, knock off at 5 o'clock and not think any more about my business.
Yeah.
It's not that entrepreneurship is necessarily the answer. It can go reverse as well, can't it?
It absolutely can. I think it's just finding the balance, finding the things. Like, as I always say to people, you want to have enough purpose to get up in the morning and enough money to sleep at night. So you can't have, you need to have both of those things to be happy. You have to have purpose, and that might be working for a bank, or it might be your own business, or having your own business mightn't give you enough money to support your family, and then you're going to be miserable. You're not going to be happy if you have no money. So,
how do you deal with someone who comes to you and says, "I can't sleep, I'm worrying about money all the time"? Because you're not a psychologist, but they're looking to you for help, and I guess you feel at times that maybe you are a psychologist. Or certainly taking on a bit of that role for people. As an emotional advisor as much as a financial one. But how do you help someone who's lying awake worrying about money?
Most of our job is psychology and behavior, and trying to get to the bottom of what it is that's caused them to be in that position. And what are the weaknesses in their in their qualifications or their chosen career path, or what is the block that's stopping them making enough money. It doesn't have to be 200 grand a year, 20, 30 grand a year, doesn't matter. It's what is the barrier to them, solving that problem. And a lot of the time it is psychology. A lot of the time it is making a change, being brave enough to make a change, saying, I'm in a dead end job, or I'm not making progress in this career, or I can't get the job I want. How do I get out of that hole? And oftentimes it's a change, going back to study or changing career completely and starting again. And that takes a lot of bravery to do that and say, I'm not going in the right direction here and I can't support my family, or I can't get enough money to help buy a house, which is a big problem in Dublin now, obviously. So,
do you ever get couples who come into you and they're on very different financial trajectories or very different standpoints, where it's like, sure, he's no concept of money, or he'd spend it all if he had it. Like, do you get that where a couple are at odds with each other in terms of finances like that?
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
And I would say 75% of our new client inquiries are from the wife, the woman in a couple, because they tend to worry more about money and they're more conscientious about money. Men are naturally more risk-taking, and that might be with how they invest their money or how they choose their career, but also in how they spend money. If you're deciding to spend now instead of save for later, you're taking a risk. That you're kind of backing your current lifestyle to the detriment of your future self. So men will tend to do that and buy the new set of golf clubs or the nicer car and say, I'll figure out retirement. It'll be grand. Maybe there's a confidence thing as well, that they know I'm going to be successful, so I'll figure that out when I'm successful. Whereas in our experience anyway, women tend to want to have more of a balance, and they want to provide for family more. They have more of an instinct in that direction. So we would have that. One of the first things we try and get couples to do when they come in for a financial plan is, and none of them like us when we say this, is to have one joint bank account. I love seeing a couple.
You advised me to do that, and I still haven't done it.
I know you haven't, and it's very hard. Most people don't.
It's mostly because I just can't face going down to the bank and the hassle of changing all my bloody direct debits.
But if you just have one bank account, like at the end of the day, what's mine is hers and what's hers is mine. So, it's kind of a false situation to have two accounts, especially if there's a spending difference where one partner is saving loads and being prudent and the other spending like crazy, and one is supplementing the other for bills and mortgages and things. If there's just one account, it's all open and you just get on. And after a shock period of a couple of months where you see each other, oh, you went to McDonald's on Friday for lunch. That's not very healthy, is it? There's that kind of transparency all of a sudden.
Yeah.
You get over that very quickly.
Doesn't lead to domestic disputes, does it?
Early on, it does cause a friction, but then that settles down, and there has to be an adult conversation about it and a bit of trust. You have to have some of your own independence.
So you think everything should come out of the same account, from kids' shoes to mortgages to everything, life insurance, everything's coming out of that one account. Yeah,
ideally, that's the way I like to see it, because then you can really truly put together a successful financial plan and understand the income and outgoings and how much you're saving, and plan for it and project it forward and understand where you stand financially. Because if there's I've seen plenty of couples with 4 accounts. They have the accounts they get paid into. They have the account for the kids, which is mostly the children's allowance a lot of the time. And then they have their joint account, which the mortgage comes out of. And they like a rent, they make a contribution each into that central account to pay the utilities and the mortgage. And they have their own little accounts to do what they want with. And they will borrow off each other in some cases. And there'll be checks and balances. It's like, 2 friends living together or something.
Well, I guess people would live in fear. A lot of them would feel like they're giving away control, or it's important for them to have the running away money.
It is. That's everybody says the running away money comment to me. But if you can get over, I'm just saying the most successful way to manage a household's finances, in my experience, looking at lots of people doing this, is just one account and get over it. Get over the running away money. And if you want to have a small account for buying gifts or, stuff, that's fine. But the money should be coming out of the main account into that running away money account, not the other way around.
Well, there's nowhere to hide with your system.
No, there isn't, no. Yeah. But there shouldn't be. You're together. It's a team effort. Managing a household.
Fear of money comes into it a lot. And I have, fear of money sounds weird, but I'm not a mathematical person. Numbers frighten me.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm trying to buy something complicated in a foreign language, in a foreign country. All the time with money.
Yeah.
I hate doing my accounts.
Yeah.
I hate looking at my bank statements.
Yeah.
I hate seeing how much I'm spending.
Yeah.
I can't remember what things are on my statement. They're just things coming out. No, I'm not super flahuluk.
Yeah.
I'm not buying crazy stuff all the time. But it's an uncomfortable space for me. So that's probably the reason why I haven't implemented the things that you recommended, or that most people don't do it.
Yeah.
Just whatever they're recommended, is because there's an anxiety and fear around the money and the numbers.
There is. And I'm 25 years in the business and I still have that. That doesn't go away. These fears that we have about money are hardwired. So you don't lose them. But what you can do is put some systems in place that take away the anxiety a little. That one account idea. One of the main reasons I like that is because you don't have to be Eddie Hobbs about it and budget for every penny and, worry about the cappuccino. If you just know, if you have something going into your pension and you have a few quid saved for the kids and your balance at the end of the month is still positive, you don't need to worry about budgeting. Because you have a plan in place to put away what you need to put away, spend the rest and enjoy life without worrying about it. It takes the anxiety out of it. It's when you don't have when you know that I wish I could save, but I've spent it by the end of the month. And if it's there, you'll spend it. Let's face it, if it's in your bank account, you're going to spend it. So what you want to do is get a few little things in place to get it out of your bank account quickly so you can spend the rest without any guilt-free spending. And we should be enjoying life now. I'm not a financial advisor that's here saying save some tax and put every penny away you can to have a brilliant retirement at age 60. That's too late. You have to enjoy life now. But just put a few little systems in place to be prudent and good with money and get them set up. Forget about them then. Leave them alone and spend the rest.
In terms of people who are thinking about making a big life decision,
Yeah.
making a change, again, whether that's relationship or whether that's their career, or whatever it happens to be, they want to live somewhere else, they want to upsize, downsize, whatever it happens to be. Like, it's a broad question, but what should they do? Like, what is the best course of advice in terms of their finances?
We're very, very good as human beings at thinking about tomorrow and next week and 6 months' time and planning short term, whether that's changing career, upgrading a house or whatever it is, or planning for a holiday. We're really good at thinking about what's coming up and what's recently in the past and what's imminent. We're terrible at thinking what's going to happen in 30 years' time. We just can't do that. It's not in our mental capacity to think long term. So when people have these big decisions to make, I try and get them to think about the long term implications of trading up, for example, is a really common one, or buying a house. Are you buying a house that all of a sudden now has committed you to working till you're 65 or 70? And there's nothing you can do about it. Once you've bought it and you're in and you have that big mortgage to pay, you are now working until you're 70 or 65. People don't think, they see that nice house and they go, we love that house and we'll be able to pay the mortgage and it'll be fine. What they don't think about is, will we still want to be paying that mortgage and be working in the job they're in now and not being able to make a change in 5 years' time, 10 years' time and say, I'm sick of that job now, but I can't take a year out. You're locked in. So when people come to us with big decisions to make, we love them to come to us before they've made the big decision. And we say, that will work for you, but just this is the implication of it. This is what you will have to do to achieve what you want to achieve. And is that right? And how do you feel about that? Because we're terrible at factoring in inflation and impact of long-term planning.
But your advice seems to be the opposite maybe of what we traditionally think. It's save money so that you can at some point have the lifestyle that you may want in 30 years. Whereas you're saying, actually, focus on the lifestyle first. What kind of life do you want? Not in 30 years, but for the next 30 years,
Yeah.
And then work out what kind of finances you need for that.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying that?
100%.
Because maybe we don't think that. We just think, well, we do the hard slog and then at some point someone's going to put a medal around our neck, like, the end of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And we'll go, hooray, we did it.
Yeah.
But at which point we might be sick or not here.
Yeah. Well, traditionally, our parents had a job that was, the pension was provided for, and the contract was, you work until you're 62, we'll give you a pension. That's the deal. And we'll give you a watch. And you stuck to that and it was fine. And that's not there anymore. So now we're responsible for all that now, whereas our parents weren't. They didn't have that responsibility. So you have to think about, all of the conversations we would have would be softer conversations. What do you want for you in terms of holidays and lifestyle and career? What do you want for your kids between now and retirement and from retirement on? And answer all those questions first. And then we'll say, okay, now what we want to work out is how much is enough money for you to achieve that. And we'll give a number. Sometimes we'll give a really specific number. Say, this is what you need.
So if you earn this amount per year,
you will have enough.
You can create this lifestyle you're looking to create.
Yeah. Or you have enough already, sometimes.
Yeah. Do you meet people who just cannot get into their heads that they have enough money?
Oh, I would say that is my number one problem with my older clients is getting them to spend their money. I cannot get them to spend their money at all. And I would say most financial advisors would find the same thing. We work our asses off from age 20 to age 60. And then when we hit 60, we have, and to get around this, I say to people, you've retired now and you've a nice chunk of money. Go now, just step back and think of your 35-year-old self. When you were 35, what did you think you were going to do at age 60 when you retired? And they'd say, oh, well, I thought I was going to sail around the world, or I was going to, volunteer for some charity and travel and whatever, amazing dreams. And then when they hit 60, I say to them, well, okay, now what do you want to do? Oh, well, I need to keep a few quid for Johnny for a house deposit, and I'm worried about long-term care, and I don't think I have enough. And all of a sudden the dreams evaporate, and it's really sad. So we had a lunch last Thursday where a good client of mine spoke to my clients because he disappeared from his business in his mid-50s and hired someone into his company to take on his job while he was away. And he went off and sailed around the world with his teenage kids and a whole gang of friends. And has come back to the business now and is back working again because he just decided, well, the kids are of an age where they'll want to do it with me. I have the energy now to do it. And I worked with him for nearly 10 years and kind of building up, knowing he had enough to do it now rather than wait. And I had him speak to a gang of clients last Thursday to try and inspire some of them to make those brave decisions, to spend a bit of their money.
But it's interesting that he did it, but then he went back to work. Back to his old job.
It was his business. And he loved the work. It's not that he didn't like working. He just wanted to take a break from it to fulfill a dream while he could.
So he effectively lived his pension, in inverted commas, dream.
Yeah.
You know, what age was he? In his 40s? Or?
Mid to late 50s.
Okay.
It was a three-year project overall. But
so he just brought his pension life, pension best life forward.
Just one bit of it.
Yeah.
Because it made sense with the kids to do it at that age. And that was really inspiring. Now, not everyone's lucky enough to be in that position. I get it. But the people we meet who have enough already can't spend it. So it's as you said a few minutes ago, it's trying to find that balance between now and 75, 80 and even it out a bit. The financial advice industry would have you lump it all at the end. And the pension companies definitely want you to do that because it's in their interest.
Well, you're just paying them for longer.
And they make all sorts of crazy projections to make it feel like you need to be putting more than you need in. And you'll have more than enough at the end. You know, just 40 years of saving, if you're invested in the stock market or something productive, will give you amazing returns and more than you need probably if you do it right.
In terms of anyone who wants to leave a relationship, say like a marriage, or let's just say you want to end your marriage.
Yeah.
You want to, for whatever reasons, you want to go your own way.
Yeah.
That must be a hard one.
Yeah.
Because you can barely afford to keep one household going. If suddenly now you have two and you're trying to support kids at the same time.
Yeah.
Are there situations where people come to you who simply cannot break up because financially it's just not viable?
Yeah. We have that. Or we will often have one side of a broken marriage come to us, now looking to see, what do I do now? How do I? And it's extremely difficult, especially now with the cost of living in Ireland now, and how much it costs to run effectively two households instead of one. It's virtually impossible, and it means a massive downgrade of lifestyle in most cases.
Is it harder for men? And I'm very wary of this question because we don't know what happens in individual relationships and all that kind of thing, or what could be going on. But is it a case where a lot of the time when a marriage with children ends, which can be very natural and sometimes a positive thing for both people, but the onus is on the man, regardless of the circumstances, to leave the family home, find another place to live, and pay for those two things. Now, again, every relationship is different, and I'm massively generalizing. But I'll tell you why. I was watching a documentary called Clodagh the other day. Really powerful documentary about an Irish designer who, back in the 70s, decided, her marriage wasn't a healthy one and she wanted to leave. But at that time, if you were the breadwinner, you kept the kids stayed with you, and that, of course, was generally the man, because women weren't allowed work or it was frowned upon. So she essentially had to leave her children in order to gain her freedom. Whereas these days, I was thinking, well, is it the opposite almost now, where if you're the breadwinner, the onus on you a lot of the time is to get out of the family home, and that the children will stay with the mother for, maternal reasons and continuity and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know an awful lot of couples that are purely together for financial reasons. They can't stand the sight of each other, but they can't. There's no way they could possibly break up. It just wouldn't work. They just couldn't afford to do it. And that's a terrible position to be in, firstly. And also, when we do experience couples that break up, there's often one partner in the marriage who is the financial person. That's not always, can be either. It's 50-50. Actually, in our experience, it's more the woman than the man who looks after the money. But it can be really difficult then all of a sudden to have to manage your finances and figure it out. Even just that problem is a big problem for people. Some people have never had to manage money. They've just known the money's in the account. I can go and buy the groceries, or the mortgage gets paid, or whatever it is. And all of a sudden they realize, I don't know where any of the accounts are.
Well, they might have been just naturally have shied away from it.
Absolutely.
Someone else took charge.
Yeah.
Or maybe actually there was an element of control there where one party actively stopped the other person from having any interaction with the finances.
Yeah, it can be either. We've seen both. And there's a sudden very, very rapid and urgent education required and just simple personal finance. And that scares people. Yeah. And all of it's... Yeah, fear is a big issue. There'll be an awful lot more marriages broken up now, I think, if that fear wasn't there. But it is a very expensive project to go through, particularly for the man in Ireland at the moment, because whatever you say about the system, it does tend to be the man who leaves the home and goes and rents an apartment somewhere and has to pay some maintenance. That is changing. The incidence of women being the main breadwinner in a household is much, much higher now than it used to be. So... But you still don't see too many women leaving the family home and the men staying at home yet. But that's changing.
I meant to say to you finally, I've made a terrible mistake. I don't know what kind of advice you gave me, but this is a disaster. I used to have a great radio show, here I am in podcast land. But what have you done to me?
You look very unhappy there, Dermot. You're the first. This will be a great case study now.
Do you know what? I'm just playing too much golf. That's the problem.
You're too happy.
I'll circle back to you in a few months and we'll get an update and see how it's going, because I'm definitely, to some extent, still existing with my head in the sand.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe is that normal for people who kind of make a change and then they just don't want to know? And at some point they come back into you and go, help.
Yeah, that's why we don't want people to have their heads in the sand. We want them to come to us and say help. And we don't want people, Dermot, to be afraid to say, let's have a little interim review of how things are going so far. The sooner you review things and keep an eye, the better. What you don't want is a surprise or it to be too late or, most of the time things are really fine and okay. You just need a bit of peace of mind and a little bit of a shoulder to cry on for a few minutes and say, actually, I know you're worried about it because all of a sudden you don't have this monthly paycheck coming in, but it's fine. You're okay. You're grand. This is, what you have in reserve and it will work out. And you carry on then. And it's just that little nod of encouragement. It's like a football team where, a player all of a sudden loses a bit of confidence, hasn't scored in a few weeks and is a little bit worried out, can I still do this? And you just say, yeah.
I don't want to get into my sex life.
Never a problem, surely.
I haven't scored in a while.
We'll get you back on the horse.
Maybe it's because I've got no money now.
That's a little bit beyond our service, to be honest.
Dave Quinn, thanks so much for chatting to me.
My pleasure, Dermot. I always enjoy talking to you, actually. It's nice to do it like this, but yeah.
Yeah. Great. You're not gonna invoice me for this,
yeah, well, yeah.
Thanks a million.
My pleasure.